Hello, this is the Blast Report podcast on all things blasting. My name is Evan Thibaud with 𝗧𝗵𝗲 Consulting, and I want to thank all the drill and blast teams along with those supporting them who are out there on the pattern. The production team at Blast Think and I would like to welcome you to today's episode of the Blast Report podcast. This episode is brought to you by 𝗧𝗵𝗲 Engineering. Founded in 1946, this family-owned and operated small-town business has been providing two-way radio technologies to industries across the globe. The 𝗧𝗵𝗲 name has been known for their quality and exceptional customer service for over 75 years. They work with Jeff and the teams at 𝗧𝗱𝗆𝘆 Memorial for nearly 2 decades and are proud to support such an amazing project and incredible teams behind it. The friendships that have been made on the mountain are multi-generational. Whether you need remote firing devices for contract blasting, construction, law enforcement, mining, or military, or you need radio remote controls for logging operations, visit their website at www.𝗧𝗵𝗲 to learn more about the best and most safe, rugged, and reliable solutions available on the market.
It's quite interesting. The explosives industry has really loved what this project is and has highlighted just another unique aspect of using explosives to do something other than just, you'd see in a regular quarry. But a lot of explosives companies and people who are listening here have either donated explosives and worked with explosives and been part of training and worked with you guys and come to visit. It's had a significant impact on fundraising. So I want to obviously thank all the listeners who are out there who supported it. But also I think what needs to be mentioned and honored was that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he never took a dollar of government funding. It's all been privately funded and paid for. Am I correct? And
yes,
and there's a university. There's even you're building a university on site. And so can you go into some of that funding and how what the reason why that is and what the goal is of the project in the end?
Yeah, the first part of that is, like I said, 𝗧𝗵𝗃 had worked at Mount Rushmore, so he saw what 𝗧𝗵𝗃 went through at Mount Rushmore, and originally it wasn't supposed to be government funded. The project, and I won't get into how the Rushmore started, but the bottom line, it came down to where it needed to be government funding, matching dollar for dollar what was raised. 𝗧𝗃 saw what 𝗧𝗵𝗃 went through, and this being one, I don't want to say, well, it's a dark mark against, American history, but, there again, you get off on that tangent. It needs to be told. We don't, we should, instead of, denying what is, it's happened, bring it out like this and then see what things can come from. So the bottom line is, getting back to the funding, he saw what 𝗧𝗵𝗃 went through. 𝗧𝗵𝗃 died penniless, which a lot of artists do because they just, cut their ears off.
Gowdy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, 𝗧𝗃, like I said, with this being what it was, as far as he just felt that the government wasn't going to finish it, and also didn't, some people back then, especially when I worked, Casimir and I, his son, we got into some good arguments, and because of the project, and there was some people that didn't really like it, and so there was a few fights, a couple of times, and they were kind of fun. But just like the boys at Rushmore like to fight, we were kind of that same way back then. I never fight, but it was, we didn't back down anyway. But anyway, so 𝗧𝗏, didn't believe that, hey, if you don't believe in the project, and even when you came in, to pay the admission fee, if you don't like what you saw here, he would give you your money back. So 𝗧𝗏 believed that he didn't want to take taxpayers' dollars to fund it. So with the explosive companies too, this was a very positive thing that was being done with explosives in a sense of art. And, I think, the engineering of the science of explosive is an art in itself. But when you're actually carving, because the last time that I know of anybody's done anything on this scale was Rushmore, and they were using dynamite in a total different way, and they were using it, to do finished work as well. But the explosive industry, helped us out incredibly. And I know they helped out 𝗧𝗏 previously, because what was great was gentlemen that I have met, through the industry, and that they would talk about how they back then, had certain explosives for whatever reason. Mainly back then it was dynamite. Oh, I'm not sure. I think some 𝗏𝗲, things of that nature, and the stories of meeting 𝗧𝗏, and they were like, boy, was he quite the character, and their take on him. And I suppose it's when you caught him. It depends on when you caught him. But yeah, it goes back to a long time, and the fact too that we carved that face, with explosives, and a lot of that mountain was trimmed. But literally areas like the forehead, shot right to grade with explosives. And when you talked about the torch, Paul never wanted to torch off those half boreholes, because he was just so proud of the drilling of because that was another thing, was the drilling that was something, to do at all those different angles. And with det cords, it goes back to that saying, good drilling, creates great blasting. And that was so true up there, because det cord is, primer cord is very unforgiving. If you don't have great drilling, it's not going to hold. And for the most part, if your burden relationships, spacing relationships aren't what they're supposed to be, it's going to rifle. And a lot of times that was more damaging to the rock, or the rock that we were saving, than what we were trying to remove. And, we knew that by our vibration monitoring.
Yeah, you had I think another reason why the industry really, at least I don't want to speak for the whole industry, but myself, is that as an engineer, sometimes you lose a lot. You get so technical and logical, you lose a lot of the art in some things. And so when you can be a part of something that still is artful, blasting is very much an art, and a skill set that can be passed down and taught and trained over time. It's not just an equation or a variable in a computer. There is so much that I feel like blasters and drillers see, and then to see that somebody is utilizing that and utilizing explosives to create something is I think is something that everyone wanted to get behind and see, and then they started to listen to the reasons, who is 𝗧𝗏𝗆𝗆 and what is the project, and then and then the university, and so what is there's I remember seeing kind of a master plan in the end. What is that master plan at the end of that?
Yeah, the university, that's the second part of your question. There again, 𝗧𝗏 wanted it to be more than, just a mountain carving. He wanted it to be a humanitarian project, to where the Native Americans could literally share preserve their history, could be told through their culture, their heritage, through the Native American Indian Museum, the Native American University, which is ongoing right now. I believe this summer, boy, forgive me for this number because I shouldn't quote it, but I thought it was right around 32 that they had this year. I don't want to say for sure, but anyway, the university is going on. They also will have a fall program, and it's just growing and growing more each year. And so, just like Dartmouth, I believe was started for the Native Americans, and my history might be a little long there, but that's, to me, that's where it starts. It has to come through education. And I think that's the great thing with the Society of Explosive Engineering. When I got into the explosive industry, there were no schools that you could go to like there is now. I think there was research at MIT and New Mexico, I believe, but, not a curriculum for explosives. So the point being, most of it was, an apprenticeship type program. And so I'm thankful for the society and everything that I learned, because that was a great asset to be able to go and be able to talk to people. And I know they appreciated knowing, be able to talk explosives relating this to a carving. And I'm getting off this a little bit, but getting back to the university, it's a place to where, Native Americans can come. And there again, I'm a believer in education. That's, I went into education, and, that's a whole nother story. I used 𝗧𝗵𝗄, in the school systems to do some teachings, different things of that nature. But yeah.
Yeah, you've told me a wonderful story about a struggle that you had, because you did go to college to be a teacher, right?
Well,
And then you ended up becoming, or you ended up becoming a teacher in California, and you have a story about a kid who was not, he was struggling in school. You want to share that story again? I think that was a good story. He was struggling in school, and it was a very tough neighborhood. I'll let you tell it.
Now,
You know the one I'm talking about, right?
I think is that the last school that I was at where they were breaking into my classroom, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
that story right there.
So let me back up a little bit, just so they know. And again, this relates to 𝗧𝗵𝗄. So, how does this happen? And yes, I had got my education background, and I also went into sports medicine. How I had gotten out to California was studying for my national exam for sports medicine. But anyway, and getting my secondary certifications for out there. But when I had come back to 𝗧𝗵𝗄, I had come back in '88, and I had gone out to, once I was studying in California, I landed a job with the San Francisco 49ers, but decided, no, I'm going to, come back to 𝗧𝗵𝗄 and do that. And then they didn't even have enough money to keep me, full time. So I would use my education degree. And then I told Ruth I could leave because I had a science background. I could go down to LA, where I had other aspirations, and do some teaching. So anyway, so my parents really thought I was crazy, but that's what I did. And so
You
I
are
would work
you are pretty
basically
crazy.
work during the summer, and during the spring and part of the fall. And then I would take, mainly I just wanted to substitute day by day, because I didn't want to bite into, what it really takes to be a good educator. And I was pursuing some other things down there. And anyway, I always bid in, and they needed a science teacher in this junior high. Now, junior high was some of the worst as far as Well, when it comes down to, your gangbangers had not been weeded out yet. So every junior high that I went to, security guards, had a flak jacket and were packing, and usually didn't see that in the high school. And I always thought that was, going to be opposite. But anyway, I taught both at junior highs and senior highs, but taking this one position, and so they called me in and said, where it was at, and I said I was okay with it. And second day after I'd introduced myself to the students, I had talked to, and I'm going to just use the name Mr. Michaels, which is not his name, but he was the vice principal that I worked with. And I knew I was in a rough neighborhood because if you have any problems at all, you just pick up the phone and call right away, and security will be right here. And he goes, the last teacher left because, it was just a little bit too much for him. And believe me, what I saw with the classroom, yeah, it was. And so I had a lot of cleaning up to do and things like that. So the second day when I came in, now this wasn't one big building. These were bungalow buildings here and there. And then you had this 20-foot fence that surrounded this whole school system. Well, here I am, open my door, and it's like, what is this? Well, the front dresser drawer of my desk, they had taken out and thrown all the contents in front of the door. And here the place had been tagged, and so I get on the phone and call them up, and came down, take them down to another room, clean it up, come back. This goes on. And, I tell these kids I don't condone it, and things like that. And I used to come in with a suit and tie and the whole things. And literally the stories that I could tell you, how these kids they transformed, but they really didn't, because, for example, I would have them reading, and then I'd walk around the classroom, and I'm going close to the door. Well, right next to the door is this display case that has two doors on the inside. You open the doors, and there's windows on the outside facing the hall to where you could put displays in there for the kids. And so I'm leaning up against that, and I hear this. Well, after this point now, I'm wearing tennis shoes, blue jeans, and I know I'm getting tagged. So I pointed to the one respectable student that I knew in the classroom and said, Mary, you've got the class. And I turned around and just flung these doors open, and here's this, little 12-year-old standing there, just eyes deer-eyed, and off to the races we go. And he's going for the fence because he knows if he gets caught, he's in trouble. And the kids, they're just, Mr. Hermanson, go, and so he goes right up on that fence. I'll always remember. And I went up right behind him, and I grabbed him right by the back of the pants and yanked him down, and grabbed him on the arm. And we're walking back to Mr. Michael's office, and he goes, you get your hands off me, I'll sue you for every dollar you got. And I said, go ahead, you saw my car. And anyway, I got to the point to where, I'd said, don't, send him down to my classroom at lunchtime. And and then that's what I would do. I would sit and talk to these kids one-on-one, and then I'd give them a little punishment as far as, well, you're going to help me, clean the desk from these guys, because this continuously went on to where, again, they were, I kind of had an idea who was doing it, and I would tell them, I don't condone this, breaking in the classroom and, this and that going on. But still there was no reaction from the kids. They just thought it was funny, and I was like, Mr. Michaels, how were they doing it? They're like, I don't know. The only thing we know is that they're probably have stolen some keys, and they're getting into the building that way, or some skylight. I'm not sure how it was. Anyway, things are going better, with students with me. And so they're sending me more kids, and you would not believe the level of these, what some of these kids have been
Bad
through.
situations.
So horrible.
And
Horrible.
you would tell them about Crazy
So
Horse.
what happened was, so I get this girl in, and I can't control it. Okay. They wanted me to see if I could work with her. Now I'm up to 40 students. So anyway, 𝗧𝗵𝗲, there's no way. She was just too wild. I don't know if what the deal was. So we have a parent-teacher conference. Her mother's gone. The father's in there. Anyway, Mr. Michaels is telling what's going to happen. She's going to be expelled for a period of time. And he turned to the father, and right when he says, "What do you think?" And she turned and pointed his finger to her father and says, "You just sit there and shut the up." So we knew there was
Whoa.
something going on with the family. Anyway, and this girl was only 12, 13 years old. I think she was 14 actually, because she'd been in school so long. We expelled her, and back to classes, and he called me in and didn't know what was going on. It was about 2-3 weeks later, and said, "I just wanted to let you know they found Regina's body, and her pimp had taken her, because I guess she went out on the street and wouldn't take the guff, that she gave me, and, tied her to a mattress, poured gasoline over her, and burned her to death."
Jesus.
And it had, such an effect on me that I was like, okay, I just can't teach science. So Ruth had given me a model of Crazy Horse. Put that on my desk, and every day, the last 10 minutes, well, the first day, I was like, "Jose, how old are you?" "Odelay, Mr. Hermanson, 13, and go over to, Raymond. "How old are you?" "Mr. Hermanson, 13. So anyway, the first time I would tell them of the first Plains battle, and it happened August 19th, 1854, when this immigrant family they were leaving Fort Laramie, going west, and had passed this encampment where the chief conquering bear was, and this encampment of Lakotas and Brules, Tumpopows, I'm not sure who else, the other tribes were in there. But anyway, this cow gets loose, and Indians at first thought it was funny, but then it started ripping up the campfires and the tents, so Indians shot it. The Mormon immigrant went back to Fort Laramie, demanded justice. The captain, I can't remember, or the colonel, told the captain, what was his name? Excuse me for not remember. Oh, I can't remember his name. Anyway, he came out with 29 other men demanding justice. Conquering bear, was going back. Finally, the offer is up to 8 ponies, and this cow was not worth
8
one
ponies.
Lieutenant Grant. That was 8 ponies for this one skinny cow. So a shot rings out, conquering bear is killed, and the 29 soldiers, along with Lieutenant Granton, is killed, and a young boy who was also 13, just like you, was called Curly. And he witnessed from that point on warfare till the day he died. And my point being that I told him was, just like Crazy Horse, you guys are in warfare. You're literally struggling at times. I know it. It's different, but you're living. You're living for your life. You're struggling for your life. And the bottom line, by the end of the year was, the point was, fight the good fight, whatever that may be. So anyway, that went on, and the bell rang, and not a kid moved. Normally they were up out of their seats. So after, every class period, I would, or before 10 minutes, of the period, I would tell them a little bit about Crazy Horse every day. So they break into my classroom again, after about 2 or 3 weeks of telling the story now. And before that, they had destroyed everything. There was fires, things like that. This time, same thing. They were just it was kind of like, and I can understand that, kids, they don't know how to express themselves, or whether they're different, maybe it's funny or whatever. But anyway,
The hell-raising phase,
the hell-raising phase. Thank you. And everything's destroyed. I walk in there, here's the front dresser drawer. So that's why I knew it's my kids. They're toying with me too, Everything is destroyed. Everything is tagged. Every chalkboard, every desk. And I'm just picking up the phone, and here's the model of Crazy Horse. And they didn't touch it one bit. And I was like, oh my God. So didn't have class that day, had to move them to another classroom, and then they came back the next day. It was getting close to the end of the year, and I literally, with every class, I just like, I know you guys have a tough life, you're going through a lot, and maybe you didn't learn a lot, but I got you on one thing, fight that good fight. And because it didn't destroy the model. So, they truly understood, the message. So I said, if nothing else, that's one message I got, you, and I kind of knew who they were, but, it applied to all. So then the last day of class, I walk into my room, and the only thing they had done was the front dresser drawer was thrown in front of the door, and everything else was spotless. And picked up the phone, and Michael said, well, that was their way of saying goodbye. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Broke into my classroom. It didn't touch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy.
So such a good story. And it's just, there's so many ways that mountain has had an impact on you and many other people. I've also asked you one time before, like, definitely a point of this, I don't know how to say, spirituality is a very large aspect of the Crazy Horse Monument, and that area. That mountain was, supposed to be in a sacred area. Did you, ever get any, how do I say, did you feel spiritual? Was there any situations where, some people would say like they have a spirit animal,
like a vision,
came to them, a vision, right. There's definitely, everyone has some sort of aspect like that in their life. Now you've told me a story of something similar on the mountain. Would you share that one with us?
Well, before that, I'll just throw this in there so Crazy Horse, well, yeah, let me tell you the story first, because this was a story that 𝗧𝗵𝗲 had told me, and I had also confirmed it, and there's many readings to where it is, and it's pretty incredible. Crazy Horse, the Native Americans, if you, boy, how do you bring all this down in a couple of sentences? But for the Native Americans, everything was 𝗧𝗵𝗲, or the Great Mystery. But that was in everything, okay? And when I mean everything, the two-legged, the four-legged, you and I, the trees, the water, and even the rock or the stone. So Crazy Horse,
it's like God or Mother Earth,
right?
Pachamama. It's all the same. It's just how they describe it.
Just simply, it's energy, and they're again related to science. Everything has energy in it. So he believed that, and that was a great part of his magic. And I won't get into that why it was, but he wore it around, some say, the left part of his chest and he would move it. Others say he wore it in his left ear. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, I believe, put it in his left ear. And I can't tell you the books. I think it's To Kill an Eagle. And then I went online to find this, and I'll give you the one that I saw in the book. Was Crazy Horse was asked, about his death, and he said, "When I die, submerge my body in water, for if you don't, my joints will turn to flint and my bones to rock." And then when I Googled it, it is said there, or what I found was, "Paint my body red in my grave, for if you don't, my joints will turn to flint and my bones to rock." So how did he know that, 150 years ago, that we would be carving, something in stone of him, and he was a very humble man. So, I think there's a connection there. And I remember sitting and talking with 𝗧𝗵𝗃, because I asked him, I said, "Do you ever feel anything up there?" And I mean, just like you, I didn't know what visions were about, or, I said, just kind of like you, has something ever touched you spiritually? And he didn't really go into it, but he wanted to, and he kind of, just like I do, it's just like, I think the same thing with the Native Americans is, you need to look for the signs. And one thing that I appreciate with the Native Americans, they never believed in a devil, but they believe in bad spirits. So I remember talking to, 𝗧𝗵𝗃 about that, but he was, he says, you may have your own, things may happen to you up there. Don't be surprised. I remember it happened that Friday the 13th happened, and he says, "You don't have to go up there." I says, "No, I'm not superstitious like that. I have a belief, I have a centering on that, I believe." And I said, "But I'm still, searching, I think, like all of us." But anyway, because of that, and then, that was during the 𝗧𝗵𝗃 era period. And then when I left, and then came back 9 years later, and like I said, there was the time I told you early in the show about my love for Anne. And I had given, basically, because I truly did. I was in love with her, and I kind of gave that up, not even knowing that it worked on the mountain. But anyway, there was times, and especially November, December, and, where I was working was on one of the highest points on the mountain. And that blazing sun in November, when it would lay down, and the winds would get really soft, and we had gotten, so far in the forehead, and at this time too, I remember, talking to 𝗬𝗪 Peterson at Mount Rushmore when he was working up there, and he says, "Had I realized what we were doing at the time, I would have bought the whole damn town of Keystone," And I was kind of getting that same feeling that day, because I could see it. I remember Paul, when we did the first quadrant, and I drilled that out just so perfectly, and he was even amazed by it. I'm not pointing this thing, I'm just, saying that there was a great thing happening here, and I was a part of it, all part of it. And so personally, it's kind of, I did this. I just thought, I was scared when I, first started up there, and I had learned to climb and get over that scariness. And everybody else had kind of gone down for that day, and they hadn't left me up there, but I was just taking my time, and I leaned back. And when you lean back and hear that rope stretch, there's just something about it. And, just with the beauty of everything that was around me, I just like, God, you've protected me. If you take my life now, but give me a sign, you know. And I, blasphemy is, trying to find that. But anyway, it was like, 𝗧𝗵𝗃, you talked to me about it, that spiritual side, and I felt we were doing something great here. Nothing, and thought, well, this is wrong.
It's not there
And
when
then-
you ask.
Yeah, exactly. And then Ann came in my mind, and I thought, well, that's different, and because I hadn't thought of her in a while. And anyway, repelled down, cleaned up, went home, rolled home, and I swear I just got out of my vehicle, and I'm walking up to my door, getting ready to unlock it, and the phone's ringing, and get inside, pick it up, and that's my mom. And she just said, Jeff, I've been wanting to call you for some time, but today's Ann's funeral. She was killed in a car accident. So yeah, I had that message, maybe it was just coincidence. I don't know, but I always hung on to that.
Wow. That's exactly the kind of sign that you ask for, and that's
But
you
how
got the
ironic.
sign. You asked for it and you got it.
Yeah.
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 And I mean, just to be there in that moment and doesn't make, you don't really question too many things after that. You do. It's a wonderful story. Jeff, thank you so much for sharing these stories with us, and and teaching us about yourself and about what work you've done on the mountain, and a little bit about the mountain itself. I really appreciate you coming on and doing this, and I hope to see you around at another 𝗧ISCE or Best in the West in the future. So best of luck in your future endeavors. I
Thank
know
you.
that they're
And
going
just
to be really
say
fun.
please come visit Crazy Horse, because I enjoyed sharing the stories, but it's not about me. It's about the project, the memorial, and what it's going to be. And I hope everybody gets an opportunity at some point to be able to visit it.
For sure, it's going to be one of the new wonders of the world. To me, it already is. I don't think you can even be close. If you're 100 miles close to it, you need to take the trip extra to go to it. So
Yeah.
Thank you again, and we'll be seeing you soon.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Blast Report podcast. I want to thank the team at Blast Think for producing this show, and please follow along for more episodes in the future, and share this podcast with your colleagues so we can continue to honor our industry and the people in it. Be safe and have a blast.